Hello and welcome to Express Sports Podcast. You're listening to me, Mihir, Vasavda, and with us, as always, is Amit, Kamath, and Vinayakk Mohanarangan. And today, we are at that time of the year where we collectively sit together and bash our producer Shashank Bhargava for making us sit for half an hour in a room without a fan, without any air conditioning, just so that you can hear our voices clearly. So Amit, Vinayakk, whatever our agenda for today is, I think we're just going to ambush Shashank and hijack this recording and make it a Shashank bashing session. Amit, what do you think about that?
Mihir, I think you are in Thane, but I am in a part of Mumbai where I am very close to hell at the moment in terms of longitude and latitude. So, I mean, whatever you want to do, like tiki sticks leke, we want to take out a march against Shashank, I'm in, man.
Yeah, I mean, Vinayakk right now is sitting in an air-conditioned...
Yeah, I think I'm the only guy on Shashank's side here because he's put me on a nice chair in a room where there's a little bit of AC and I'm not complaining. So, yeah, you guys take it out on Shashank later.
No, basically, if we were a trade union or something, you would be that one guy who'd screw over the others right now and deny them of their rights.
Yeah, unfortunately so. I mean, my sympathies with you guys, but I can't blame him.
My specs have come out. I don't know what's the next thing. So before it gets too gross and for our listeners to kind of even imagine things which they shouldn't, let's move on to the business.
Yeah, Mihir, you don't want to scandalize listeners of an podcast with the visuals that you are presenting.
I just said specs. So, anyway.
Still.
Anyway, cricket. I don't know how these guys are playing IPL. My mom and I were just watching a match yesterday and she was wondering कि ये तो मतलब बहुत बड़ी सजा है उन्हें ये temperature में खिलाने के लिए. But here we are at the end of the IPL season, the final this Sunday. It's been a crazy season, guys. So much to kind of look back on and stuff. I mean, I know what my favorite moment has been this year, but let's just start with that. The moment of the season for both of you. Vinayakk?
Oh, moment of the season. Okay, so, I mean, if I had to pick one moment of the season, I would go with the 6 that Ashutosh Sharma hit of Bumrah. Because Bumrah had many great moments, all those Yorkers. But when a up-and-coming young guy, uncapped and, free hit and all, but still, like, to hit Bumrah for a 6 like that of a sweep was quite audacious. So I kind of, that stuck with me for some reason. Like, when he spoke to us during that Indian Express idea exchange, I don't think he made a big deal out of it, but that's just like if I had to pick one moment that kind of has stuck with me for some reason.
Amit, do you have any?
Mir, I don't have a moment. I think I have it's a basic plot line for the whole season. This whole, this Hardik and Rohit wala dynamic that has gone on. With everything that has happened, like कोई अगर एक ऐसा emoji भी डाल देता है Twitter पे तो like we start reading things into it. I think after the season ended, Rohit basically posted he didn't say anything at all. He just posted 4 photos on Twitter. And I think a lot of people said, oh, is he saying goodbye? Arey, goodbye bolna hota wo bol deta. So I'm just saying that, that whole drama has been so engrossing, to be fair. It's almost become like a Big Boss wala thing, right? We look at videos on social media. We look at things हम अभी वो देखते हैं ना कि कौन से क्लिक में कौन है. We try to guess. We don't know a whole lot what is happening behind the scenes. But it is all open to interpretation. Like we are looking at, let's say, Ishan Kishan का एक video on Instagram, जहाँ पे they are playing golf in the lobby of a hotel. Then we'll start, deducing कि अरे इस video में ये players नहीं है. Which means clearly something is up between these sets of players and these other sets of players. We might be completely mistaken, okay? These guys might be the best of chums and for logistical reasons, they might not be in the same frame. But for us, I mean, इससे ज़्यादा drama कहाँ मिल सकता है यार?
I mean, our dear colleague Devendra Pandey got trending for a few minutes, I think. He didn't let go of that opportunity. He also said that this is my moment, I've arrived. He, of course, got trending because of what Rohit Sharma posted after Mumbai Indians' last match on the whole broadcaster issue. I want to come to the broadcaster issue once because you guys have followed very closely, but
Mihir, if you don't mind me interrupting, I mean, you can't get away without mentioning your moment of the season.
My moment of the season had nothing to do with everything that happened on field, actually. My moment of the season was Dhoni just trolling every one of us, expecting his retirement, expecting कि, अब हो जाएगा. jayega. This will be the last match. I used so many times. I used CT Mahi and Thala07 as the code words to get discount on a travel booking app. Everything I did, everyone expected this will be Dhoni's farewell season, and well, here we are still waiting for the guy to announce it. I don't know if it's ever going to happen. Like you were in Chennai for some parts, right? When he was still playing. What was it on ground there? The whole Dhoni buzz.
Yeah, I've actually never attended a CSK game in person, so that is something that I never got to witness in person. But I mean, yeah, the sort of craze that Dhoni has in Chennai. I know Sandeep Ji from the Express wrote that for the Sunday edition. Lovely piece, worth revisiting. It is just like something that you don't. Yeah, I mean, we've seen admiration for cricketers and athletes in the country, but what Dhoni has with Chennai is, yeah, it's next level. And like, I think one of those other moments that stood out was when Chennai lost to DC in Vizag, but Dhoni came and hit a few sixes. And like at the end of the match, if you saw the visuals without audio and you were just looking at the stands, you wouldn't have guessed that, Chennai lost the match. It felt like, it was a home game for Chennai and they won it. That's sort of craze that he's had. I mean, I know a lot of people who don't really buy into that sort of thing. It's not exactly professionally run franchise and all that is the argument. But yeah, I mean, the craze is just next level. And we just saw a video on social media just a few hours back, CSK CEO saying, we don't know what the decision is, but we hope that he'll be available for us next year. So there we are still in that territory. It's not like we're getting any closer to the retirement, it seems.
I don't know, it's kind of crazy from a newsroom point of view because you plan so many things, right? When a person's impending farewell is coming, and they just like put water over all those plans, and you have to look at things all over again when the next IPL comes. But also I feel that at some level Dhoni is, I think, one of those last generation of players who kind of doesn't divide opinion as much as others. I mean, you look at what's happened with, say, Kohli or Rohit Sharma this season. I mean, even something which we thought was, untouchable, the broadcasters, even they got dragged into multiple sagas. Once with Sunil Gavaskar and Virat Kohli, and then Rohit Sharma versus Star Sports. I found that particularly entertaining, Amit.
Yeah, I mean, it's hilarious, because as journalists, we know that, a lot of access these days is now, kind of captured in a sense. Maybe captured is the wrong word, but then a lot of access that we get to athletes comes through, sometimes these broadcasters who will say, okay, we will arrange for a one-on-one and only for these 5 minutes, or the kind of influence that broadcasters wield. I'm sure that after the T20 World Cup team was announced, Rohit Sharma had no intention of hosting a press conference, or Ajit Agarkar had no intention of hosting a press conference. But then maybe they were told कि अरे नहीं करना तो है, मतलब it is great television, तो आपको करना पड़ेगा. So they've had a lot of influence. But sometimes, I guess, the dynamics kind of gets out of the hand. And maybe, I don't know, I could be wrong, but it just felt that the tweet that Rohit put out later on, Star got criticized for that maybe a little harshly, because like ऐसा तो उन्होंने कुछ डाला नहीं, where Rohit is just saying कि boss don't put out this ये, and they've just said that. मतलब उन्होंने वो करके बाकी सब तो म्यूट ही किया था. Plus the first video that he got in trouble for, that had nothing to do with Star, I believe. That had something to do with the franchise cut social media guys who got way too excited about it and like posted a video, then realized कुछ ज़्यादा ही बोल दिया उसने वीडियो में, and then deleted it. So I don't know, मतलब
just to kind of give some background to the incident, right? I mean, the first time Rohit got this whole tangled in this mess was when I think it was a match in KKR, when after the match he was just hanging out. I forget who was the player, if you guys remember the name.
Abhishek Nair, not the player.
Yeah, with Abhishek Nair. Yeah, with his former teammate, if I can say. He was hanging out with Abhishek Nair and they were kind of having a conversation about something, and Rohit Sharma was using heavy words to describe it. And the thing was that it was an incomplete conversation. We don't know in what context they were talking, but of course the video got extrapolated and people assumed that it was about Mumbai Indians, and that video got put on KKR social media handle, which might or might not have landed Rohit in kind of some sort of spot. And then just a few days later, he was again on the boundary ropes talking to someone, and there was this broadcaster camera. Dhaval Kulkarni, again one other former teammate of his. And the broadcaster camera was lurking around, kind of picking the audio, and he just like told those guys over there that already you guys have troubled me enough, so please don't put this out. I mean, my thing, Amit, here is that I don't know if it was Star's fault. They've of course said that they didn't put it out, but even that bit, right? You don't put this out. You could have just not put it out, is my argument over here. I don't know, Vinayk, you're the saner of the guys over here on issues like these. What do you think of it?
So the first thing that I thought of the whole statement was, I mean, it's very, we're in uncharted territory here where top Indian cricketer is taking on a broadcaster. We were in uncharted territory when Sunil Gavaskar was having a go at Star Sports live on Star Sports.
That we have
which
to
was,
come to later
I think,
on.
yeah, like so this is like completely uncharted territory where we don't exactly know. So Sunil Gavaskar works for the BCCI, but he does stuff for Star Sports, but he's also on Jio Cinema as part of the World Feed commentator. So with Jio Cinema as the host broadcaster for Indian cricket for the next few years. I think the whole, this entire, like whether, without getting into the right and wrongs of it, I think this is playing out purely because of the fact that we have two players in the market now. I think that factor is quite evident where, if Star had the monopoly that they had a few years back, whether this would have happened, I don't know. Now there is Jio Cinema in the mix. There is, of course, the Jio Cinema Mumbai Indians angle that we need to wonder. Like, the franchise owns the streaming platform and, Sports 18. Whether that is playing a part in this, it's confusing to me, honestly. Because I think if Rohit is just speaking, and we don't really know this as well, but if he's just purely speaking about that one clip where he says, audio mat record karo yaar, then it's a little weird because it's a live broadcast technically. And it's not like they had an option of cutting him out. If he's saying that on air and they were showing it right then, it's not exactly in their hands. So, maybe they could have avoided it. I don't exactly know how the production plays out behind the scenes for these things. It's a very weird thing. I don't think Star has done a few messy things. Like, they would go overboard with their hero worship and Kohli, and they're too loud in general and all that. Like, I have my issues with Star, but this feels like a little like what Amit was saying. It was a little harsh on Rohit, but the whole thing is, I think, playing out because of probably the two-player thing in the market. So I think that is something that has come into more focus this year.
Also, I wonder if this will have any impact on, the kind of access people have on ground. And I don't mean like access in terms of journalistic access, but just the number of people who roam around with cameras trying to pick those candid moments where two players are talking or something.
Exactly.
We see in football, right? The players are so anxious when they're talking to each other. They always have their mouths covered. They generally avoid any animated conversations when they are on the ground because of the cameras that are there. And you wonder if that's the next thing that's going to happen in cricket, especially in the IPL, because like Amit mentioned earlier, people are just ready to pick on the slightest of slips and turn it into something that it could not be. So that's
Speaking of which, KL Rahul.
Oh man, even Hardik Pandya. The guy was smiling a lot, and people kind of started assuming so many things. Usme yaar, abhi has rahe to bhi problem hai. It's kind of crazy.
No, the whole Sanjeev Goenka KL Rahul thing was another thing that for the first time we're seeing a franchise owner going after the franchise captain in all those animated discussions, which is another case of what you were saying, that cameras are all over the place and quite a few off the field.
But the best part about that conversation is we literally don't know what was said, right? We have no idea. No lip readers were hired. And all we've done is just interpreted body language. And we've come to a conclusion कि ये आदमी लग रहा है कि कुछ न कुछ गलत बोला है KL Rahul को. And look at how dignified KL Rahul is standing there and listening, taking all of this from an entitled owner and whatever we've all assumed.
For all you know, they might be debating over Lucknow kebab and Calcutta's rasgulla or something like that, it could be anything. And they are not even patient enough to wait to understand what the issue was. On field, it was as interesting. To be honest, like I got switched off after the first week. I generally...
Before we change topics, I think I have one bit of advice to give to all the camera people who are covering IPL games. I think they should just play it safe and do what they do best, focus on women in the crowd rather than players on the crowd, because wo unse acha hota hai. That is a tried and tested method that they've finished over the years.
Oh, well, Amit Kamath with some great advice there, I guess. Amit? So I was saying about the on-field action. I usually make it a point to watch as many IPL matches I could, but this time, for some reason, I couldn't bring myself to watch, and one of the reasons was just the nature of the matches. I got bored watching each and every team coming up and scoring more than 200 plus, 250 and all those things. It became extremely lopsided for some reason, and I never kind of got around to even understanding what the reason was. So if there is any theory as to why there were so many runs scored, at least in the first half of this season, it would be nice to know. Vinayk, Amit, any one of you?
So, the theory that is being now become widely accepted is because of the impact player, right? So, impact player was introduced, of course, last year, and teams were largely figuring out what the rule was. I don't think anyone actually exploited it to the fullest last season. But having had a year to work around, I think teams discovered the basic premise that, it's 12 versus 12 and you get to play with one extra batter most of the times. So what that did essentially is, we have big hitters coming in at as late as number 8. So that opened up number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4 to just go hard. Like Virat Kohli said this 3 days back in a Jio Cinema interview saying, that is the reason why I played this aggressively at the start early this season, because I know that even if we get out, like a couple of us get out early, there is a batter to come in at number 8 if needed. This is his wordings, and it's been talked about a lot. There is also the other angle that just the fact that once someone like Sunrisers Hyderabad exploited this and just went hard and hard and hard, it didn't really matter whether the impact player batted or not. It just like opened up another level of mental freedom for all these players, knowing what they're capable of, knowing the limits that they can push. So essentially that triggered a sort of intent wave, so to speak. I think SRS played a big part in that, and KKR also being intent merchants with the bat for the most part. RCB's turnaround, the sensational turnaround that they had. A lot of people speak about the 6 wins that RCB pulled off. I think the turnaround for RCB was when they made 260 something, chasing down Sunrisers' record score of 287. Imagine like a 287 versus 262, right? They could have easily lost the match by 150 runs, and RCB versus CSK wouldn't have mattered because of the net run rate, but they got to 262, which was massively crucial, and that kind of opened up their season. They kept going hard from the word go. So it has basically come down to the fact that there is a cushion for all these guys, and they know that what they're capable of now, and that kind of played a big... So impact players sort of triggered that whole chain reaction, so to speak. And also you're right about the point that it's mostly in the first half of the season that we saw a little bit from RCB in the second half, but SRH towards the back end, that LSG match stands out. But the bowlers did come back into the tournament a little more, and I think in the latter stages, kind of helped by the pitches as well. Summer and pitches get tired and all that. That played a part. The last few matches have been better contests, so to speak. But otherwise I think is one of the biggest talking points of the season. Whether now going forward, do we see impact player next year? Yeah, I think that's the biggest.
That's what I was coming to. I mean, the only good thing that would come out of this is that the impact player rule might be taken off from next season onwards.
Yeah, but just to add to that, the problem there is, I think, I'm not sure exactly who, but I think Ashwin also touched upon this. Even if they take out the impact player rule next season, just the sheer fact that the teams know what they're capable of, and, forget the 8th batter. Like, you go hard and you don't even need the 8th batter. You just know what you're capable of in these scenarios. The power hitting that all these teams possesses, it could be like the new normal going forward, even if the impact player rule is taken away. I think so. That's why it's not just down to the impact player, but it's the chain reaction that has triggered.
Yeah, Amit, for you, in the sense ki, apart from the live blogs that you had to do, did you ever kind of, out of choice, watch any IPL matches?
No, but that's also because I've never actually watched any IPL out of choice.
Oh, really?
Acha
tournament, yeah. I mean, I don't understand the hate it gets so much.
There's no hate. There's this indifference in my side. I'm not too invested in the tournament as such.
Was there any story that got you invested this time though?
I don't know. As I said, the dynamic of Mumbai Indians, because so that was the one thing that stood out because of how a team handles succession. Because Indian team में थोड़ा सा अलग तरीके से हमेशा होता है captaincy change. It's all sentiment based. कि अरे ठीक है, Tendulkar is the best player, we'll make him the captain or whatever. It's not necessarily the best mind or the most prolific person that gets captaincy sometimes. But with the IPL teams, we've not always had, the senior most player being the captain, which we saw. Like, we don't stick to emotions a whole lot because it's cold hard calculations when it comes to IPL. We saw that with Dhoni and Ravindra Jadeja last season. Then again, Dhoni stepping aside and handing it over to Ruturaj Gaikwad. We saw it with Pandya being brought in and, Rohit, who's won them 5 titles, being told ki boss aapko, you'll have to relinquish captaincy. So that was one thing. I mean, I don't know, maybe it symbolizes the evolution or the thoda sa maturity in IPL teams.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about that because there's this one team which didn't want to bid for a player. They bid for that player and that player went on to become one of the stars of this season. So you'd always kind of, have something that neutralizes the maturity factor in the IPL. But running out of time, so Vinayak, if we had to see this IPL season through the lens of the T20 World Cup, which begins in a week now, what do you think of those guys who are going to represent India there and any of the international stars that could really, take the World Cup by the scruff of its neck and win it for their country?
That's a tricky one. I mean, India's World Cup squad doesn't inspire too much hope at the moment. I mean, given the fact that the finalists in IPL don't really have many of the players in the Indian squad. Like, I'm not sure how many even feature, like I have to sit into account. But in a way, most of the players in the Indian squad are free because they're not in the final. I don't know. I don't know.
Strategic.
Yeah. It's something planned that way because, hey, you guys are great at IPL, but let's get rest for the World Cup. Yeah, so it doesn't inspire too much confidence that the biggest T20 leagues final won't really feature any of the big names from the Indian T20 World Cup squad. So that tells you where we're probably at in terms of expectations level. But yeah, I mean, the World Cup is a World Cup. So yeah, England, defending champions, great hitters in the mix. Some of them did really well during the IPL also. Will Jacks, Phil Salt, all those guys who, the intent machines that we spoke about. All those guys are there. So I'm actually curious to see how the World Cup plays out in terms of the dynamics that we've seen during the IPL, whether even a little bit get translated into the T20 World Cup, because we are getting back to international cricket, which is the classic 11 versus 11, and a lot of unknown in terms of the pitches in the US, whether the West Indies pitches are slow as they're expecting. All these, I think I'm wondering how that will play out. So what we saw in the IPL and what we're going to see in the World Cup might be different is kind of my early feeling. But yeah, it could. Yeah, all those drop-in pitches could be flat as well. So who knows? But not sure India are prime contenders, but it'll be interesting to see.
No, and we will be kind of dissecting the T20 World Cup, the Indian team, the conditions, and the other teams as well for our episode next week. I think that's about time we have for this one. But before we let you guys go, I have to bring in the man जिससे मैंने episode ये start किया था, Shashank Bhargava. Sadistic pleasure आपको अगर जो लेना है of making us sit in all this humidity as Amit and I melt away and you guys are sitting in a comfortable AC room right now.
Yeah, we are very happy that we are comfortable. Don't make us feel guilty about it. We are in Delhi. On Sunday, it's going to be 47 degrees Celsius. It's insane.
There are indeed two Indias, man.
But Shashank, any of the IPL action that caught your attention?
No, man. No IPL action caught my attention. Cricket, as I say, has been a fairly boring sport. Which IPL, the only way you could make this game more interesting is by shortening the length. That's what it says about the game. That's what has been my contention throughout.
3.5 घंटों से कम कितना करोगे अभी? You might as well then watch T10 in Dubai or wherever it's played.
But the problem is IPL matches किधर 3.5 घंटे में खत्म होते हैं यार. Minimum 4 hours.
Yeah, that's true.
That's another thing that, that bugs me about IPL, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there are many irritants of IPL, but well, it's a good evil to have. I truly believe that.
Shashank, can I interest you in a chess game or so? That might catch your fancy again. थोड़ा सा ज़्यादा interesting होगा.
I'm a backgammon person.
Oh well, we'll someday have a podcast on backgammon then. But I mean, look, you guys. I mean, Amit and I were just like kind of running check on what's there for the next few weeks, and it's breathless because by the time the next week's episodes come out, it will be T20 World Cup, for Euros, and by the time Euros end, it'll be time for the Olympics. So we've got plenty that's lined up for the next 2 months. The IPL ends, but the sporting season has just begun, and we at Game Time will bring all of it for you. Thank you for listening. We'll be back next week.
You were listening to Express Sports by the Indian Express. This week's show was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar and produced by me, Shashank Bhargava. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it. Share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can also tweet us at Express Podcasts and write to us at podcasts@indianexpress.com.